What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gage. Welcome to the channel. Today, I am excited to announce that my locals opened back up, and I managed to take third place playing Atlantean Mermail, facing up against top-tier threats like Tri-Brigade, which is easily the deck to beat this format. I had a ton of fun. I haven't played IRL Yu-Gi-Oh! Since lockdown, and it was just great being able to meet my friends again, play some Yu-Gi-Oh!, and of course, take some wins. Today, I'm going to show off the main side and extra that I played for the event, and towards the end of the video, I will show off some combos and side decking tips. If you're a fan of this type of content, please remember to like and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support I have been getting. And if you're in the Philadelphia area, I do have to shout out Garden of Earthly Delights, which was the venue that we play at. They will continue to host Yu-Gi-Oh! Events every Saturday. And yeah, I just really appreciate being able to play there. A welcoming community with some surprisingly competitive players. So I'm just going to go ahead and hop into the profile. So, of course, I am playing 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva. This is the one card that is able to get you into a pretty scary board. It's pretty standard at this point. When this card is normal summoned, you could special summon a level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from the deck to your hand. So that is going to be, most of the time, your Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince, and that is what's going to allow you to go into some pretty crazy plays. So 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva won't be changing anytime soon. I'm also playing 3 copies of Deep Sea Minstrel. Oh my god, guys, this is easily the MVP of the weekend. It's just insane being able to discard this card and 1 water monster to look at your opponent's hand, banish 1 card from their hand face up until the end phase. So this is what's going to allow you to play through hand traps, play through Nibiru. It also triggers your Dragoon so that you can search for a Sea Serpent like your Deep Sea Diva. It gets a water monster in the grave so that you can get the search off of the Aria. And guys, I gotta say, this is going to be standard for me moving forward. It is just so good. It saved me in so many situations, and that's why I highly recommend 3 copies of Deep Sea Minstrel. Moving forward, I am playing, of course, 3 copies of Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince, the card you will most of the time special summon off of your Diva. It's great because it allows you to send an Atlantean monster from the deck to the grave and add 1 to your hand. Most of the time, you're going to pitch Dragoons and add another copy of Dragoons, and then the Dragoons in the grave will go ahead and search you that Sea Serpent. So this is your one of the best combo extenders. It is a level 1, which allows you to go into Bujinki Ahashima, which is a really great link monster that works so well with the deck. And yeah, triple Atlantean Prince, also pretty standard at this point. And then I'm also playing 3 copies of Atlantean Dragoon. So like I mentioned, this is usually going to be what you pitch and add off of your Neptibus. It's just so good because it is not a once per turn. It is crazy. I've searched so many times just being able to pitch this card off of a water monster's effect. And yeah, you could use it to chain block so that if you really need for certain things to go off, then you will be able to do so. And yeah, I mean, triple Dragoons, it is very powerful. You really want to see it in the deck, and I am playing a card that will help you to get it back in the deck because I do value consistency very much. Usually this is considered a brick, but with the particular build that I am playing, it is not as much of a problem. So triple Dragoons, really great option. And now for the Mermails, I am playing 3 copies of Abyss Teus. Still really great. You could discard another water monster to special summon this card from your hand, so it gives you an additional body. You can use this in tandem with the level 1 tuner I'm playing to go into a Dragite, which is a really great negation for the deck, allowing you to get access to spell and trap negates. You could also use this as an extra body to go into something like an Apollosa. And of course, if you're able to get your Abyss Megalo onto the field, you can use it to go into your Abyss Gaios. Honestly, the utility for this card is so great. It triggers your Dragoons. It helps you get water monsters in the grave so that you can search off of Deep Sea Aria. So I highly recommend still playing 3 copies of Abyss-Teus. It just works so well with the strategy. And then I am playing 2 Abyss Megalo. I don't think that people will question this decision. I really value card advantage, and Abyss Megalo is really great, but having to discard 2 water monsters to special summon him is a fairly high cost. Honestly, I really just like trying to have as many options in my hand as possible. Obviously, if you need to use his ability in a pinch to be able to trigger Dragoons, then you kind of have to do what you gotta do. But in most instances, I really just want to be able to use other cards to be able to trigger Dragoons, like the Minstrel, so that's why I'm only playing 2 copies. You really don't want to always see it. And then the last Mermail I'm playing is Abyss Pike. You may notice for long-time Mermail fans out there that Gund is missing, and honestly, I did not miss it. Yes, there are combos in which Gund is very powerful. However, I have to look, whenever I'm doing test hands, I really have to determine, okay, in a lot of instances, what cards are bricks? And unfortunately, Gund fit that description. At least for Abyss Pike, I can still search it off of the Teus, and it's a level 4, so it can help me get into Bahamut Shark. But for the most part, I really did not want to also see Gund in my hand in a lot of instances. I really value being able to go into the deep sea plays, and that's why I'm just playing the Abyss Pike. Obviously, if you want to play Gund, you are free to do so, but there are a lot of cards in this deck that you really don't want to see in your opening hand, and unfortunately this is one of them. So yeah, I'm happy with the Abyss Pike. I got top 3 obviously without playing the Gund, and honestly I don't miss it. I don't think that I will return to playing Gund, but we'll see how things shape up in the future. And for the honorary Mermail, I am playing Mooling Glacier, the Elemental Lord. This is what allows Mermails to just be unfair. I mean, there are so many decks out there that, yeah, they can establish a board of negates, but Mermails can establish a board of negates and rip 2 cards from your hand. So, yes, you're ripping 2 cards from your opponent's hand at random, but the thing about Mooling Glacier is that it can be great in a lot of instances. Sometimes it can be a downside. If you are playing against a deck that may be more graveyard reliant, then Mooling Glacier isn't as powerful. However, that's where the Minstrel becomes so much more powerful, because you are able to see your opponent's hand. So you can adjust if whether or not you want to go into Mooling Glacier if you manage to get the Deep Sea Minstrel off, because you can look at your opponent's hand and say, okay, well, they're playing Eldritch or they're playing Tri-Brigade, so maybe going into Mooling Glacier isn't the greatest option. However, still removing 2 options from their hand to disrupt your board is really good, so Mooling Glacier is still great. The other thing about Minstrel and Mooling Glacier is that if you don't manage to hit a hand trap, you can actually choose the least important card in your opponent's hand to banish, so that if you do go into Mooling Glacier, you have a higher probability at hitting cards that actually matter, like their starters or board breakers. So that is really, I really like the combination of Mooling Glacier and Minstrel, because you don't always have to blindly go into Mooling Glacier, because sometimes that can be detrimental to you. And so that's why Minstrel helps this deck so much, because it gives you insight into what your opponent is playing and allows you to adjust accordingly. You don't have to go into Mooling Glacier, and that is why this is such a good deck. You are able to adjust on the fly, and Minstrel helps you to do so. And now for some extenders, I am playing the Frog Engine, which is just really, really good. I really wish that Swap Frog actually triggered Dragoons. That's the only thing that would keep this deck from honestly being like top tier. But it's still really good, because if you do manage to get into 2 Swap Frogs, that means that you can establish a totally awesome hard make a totally awesome before going into your combo, so that you can protect yourself from hand traps in the event that you do not get to go into Minstrel. And of course, it helps you to get water monsters in the grave so that you can search off of the Deep Sea Aria. And Swap Frog is generally just going to be a card that eats hand traps. So many decks are afraid of Swap Frog, and Honestly, there's a reason why. I mean, being able to go into Toad is really good. So a lot of the times I will eat an Ash, I will eat an Impermanence. I am happy to do so because then I could just go into my Deep Sea Diva and establish an unbreakable board. So you're able to get a free body, you're able to potentially go into Toad, and you're able to get a water monster in the grave. So there's still really great synergy with the deck, and that's why I am still playing the Frog Engine. And of course, to go along with the swaps, I'm playing the Ronin Toadin, obviously to get yourself an additional body to go into Totally Awesome. So guys, that's it for the Frog Engine. Some additional extenders. I'm playing 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Shathana. There are many times where you just need an additional extender, so the fact that if you control no effect monsters, you could special summon it is great, because now you have a level 4 body that you could potentially use to go into a Bahamut Shark, or just use as material to go into Halki Fibrax, your Apollousa, etc. It's a water monster, which of course has synergy with the deck. And yeah, I can't complain about having free bodies, so Tenyi Spirit Shathana did come in clutch when it was relevant. For some additional extenders, I am playing 2 copies of Lapis Dragon. This is great because when it's added from the deck to hand, it can special summon itself, and it's a tuner, so it can help you go into your Halki Fibrax plays. The reason that I play 2 copies is simple. You really want this card in the deck. You can search it off of your Dragoons, which allows you to get this onto the field, and that's really good. Another piece of utility is that I've been alluding to a card that can help you shuffle back your bricks, and that is your Murray of Greed. If you manage to actually draw this off Murray of Greed, you can special summon it from that card as well. So I'm playing 2 copies. Honestly, I've really liked it because if you do draw into it, if you don't have a proper hand, your Deep Sea Diva plays can be limited in certain instances. So that's why I really like the 2 copies. And then for the last extender, I am playing Fishborg Launcher, a level 1 tuner. Obviously, you can special summon it off of your Halki Fibrax. This helps you get into your Dragite, give you additional material for Apollousa, etc., etc. Because it's a level 1, it helps you to get into your Bujinki Ahashima. So the plays with this are honestly endless, and I really like the 1 copy. I like it because no matter what, Halki Fibrax can special summon it from the deck or your hand, so even if you draw into it, it's not really that big a deal. So that's why I am playing 1 copy. But if you're interested in playing 2 just to be able to make sure that you have follow-ups, you're free to do so, but it is considered a brick. And now for some hand traps per se. Gameciel, it's not necessarily a hand trap, but there are going to be a lot of games in which you do not get to go first. So Gameciel is just really good in the event that you do happen to go second. You could just tribute over a problematic monster and then continue on from your plays from there. It's a water monster, so you can obviously use it as discard fodder if you are going first. And it's an aqua monster, so you can actually use this to pitch off of your Totally Awesome to negate an opponent's monster, spell, trap, etc. Because Totally Awesome does let you use aqua-type monsters from the field or your hand to activate its negate effect. So Gameciel is really good. Just generically great against a lot of different strategies. Obviously, it is an out to Red Eyes Dragoon, so that's why I like playing the 3 copies. And then, guys, a spicy tech. I've been playing Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. So I don't know if other builds have been playing this, but it is so good. Obviously, if you're going second, it could be a blowout because it puts your opponent in a situation where now they have to be worried about the monsters that they summon, because during either turn, you can quick effect discard this card, and each time your opponent special summons an effect monster during the main or battle phase, you gain life points equal to that monster's attack. So now your opponent can either do a few things. They could do nothing, in which case if they do, you lose half your life points, but who cares? If you manage to skip your opponent's turn by causing them to not summon anything, then you could just full combo and win from there. They could choose to not special summon as much and make a less than stellar board, in which case you still manage to hinder them in some way, or they could just continue to full combo and you could just get all of those life points. Mermails do have the ability to grind, so if necessary, all those life points can help you in the long run, especially when you're playing in real life where time does matter. Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood can be the difference between making a win or a loss. The other reason why I like it is that because if you are going first, you can actually pitch this from your hand to have ability to search from your deep sea aria. So that is why I really, really like main decking this card. Obviously, if you are going second and you're not playing against a deck that really special summons as much, you can swap this out. But I really like this because no matter what, it's good going first or second. And combo decks are the ones that we're really, really concerned about at the moment. So Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood helps there as well. And that's it for the monsters. Now for the spells, I am playing triple Moray of Greed. Guys, consistency is everything. This lets you shuffle 2 water monsters from your hand in the deck and then draw 3 cards. So you can shuffle back your bricks, grab the cards that you need, potentially a Lapis Dragon to get a free body onto the field, and then continue from there. What's great about Moray is that shuffling 2 water monsters from the hand into the deck is not cost. So if your opponent chooses to ash this, I mean, it's not the end of the world because Moray does not shuffle the 2 water monsters back into the deck. So oftentimes this could just eat hand traps, in which case you are happy to do so because if you do have a Diva in your hand or a way to get to Diva, that means that your combo is going to be able to go through. So yeah, Moray of Greed, it's essentially Pot of Greed for the deck, and that's why I'm playing 3 copies. As you can see, most of the deck is monsters. Water monsters, so you are never going to worry about whether or not you have enough water monsters in your hand to use its effect. And then I am playing, of course, 3 copies of one of the best searchers in the deck, Deep Sea Aria. You banish a water monster from your grave, add a level 4 or lower Sea Serpent from the deck to your hand. So that's how you're going to be able to search for your Diva or your Minstrel. It's just so good. The only limitation is that you need a water monster in the graveyard. But as you can see, we are playing so many cards that can actually help you to do that, whether it's your Deep Sea Minstrel, discarding another card to be able to do so, whether it's pitching your Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. The possibilities for it are endless. You have your Mermails, which can help you pitch water monsters to the grave. So yeah, you're pretty much always going to have access to your Diva or your Minstrel, and that's why triple Aria has been very, very good. So that's going to round out the main deck, everybody. Now for the extra. So, of course, I am playing to show off the Link monsters, I am playing 1 copy of Halki Fibrax and Bujinki Ahashima. Bujinki Ahashima allowing you to special summon 2 monsters with the same level, from your 1 from the hand, 1 from the grave, and then immediately Xyz summon using them. So it's almost like this card was made for the deck because usually you're pitching a Dragoons, which is level 4, and adding a Dragoons, which is level 4, which means that you are going to be able to go into a Bahamut Shark very, very reliably. The only crappy thing about this card is that it can't be used as link material, so most of the time it's just kind of sitting around, but that is okay because hey, if we're able to make an unbreakable board, we don't necessarily need to use them as link material. So just keep that restriction in mind. A lot of people will look at me and be like, why didn't you just link it off? And I'm like, I wish I could. And then I also have the Chrystron Halki Fibrax. Obviously, we're playing tuners. It's really good for helping extend your combos. Halki Fibrax is still one of the most powerful cards in the game. It's crazy that it's still around, and we are going to continue to play it for as long as it is around. So Halki Fibrax is a great addition to the deck. For some other Link 2s, I'm playing Marincess Coral Anemone, Miss Starboy, and Mermail Abyss Lacia. They're all good in very different circumstances. Coral Anemone allows you to special summon a water monster with 15 attack or less from the graveyard, so this is really good for follow-up plays. Miss Starboy helps to buff your water monsters by 500, which can actually be relevant. There are some times where I really just need a little bit of extra attack in order to take game or to get over problematic monsters, and Miss Starboy helps me to adjust my attack accordingly. And Mermail Abyss Lacia is really good because you can use 2 fish, sea serpent, or aqua monsters, which is pretty much almost everything in the deck. And yeah, you can also use it to buff monsters, but more importantly, during your opponent's turn, you could send one card from your hand to the graveyard and then add a Mermail from the deck to your hand. So that is really good because if you have a Dragoons in your hand, you could use Abyss Glacier to pitch it and trigger its effect, and then you could use it to search for something like an Abyss Teus. So Abyss Glacier does come up in certain instances, but I will say these are definitely just utility link monsters for sure. And to show off the link 1, we have the Salamangreat Almirage just to be able to get some of your lower attack monsters into the graveyard so that you can use Deep Sea Aria. So if you do manage to get your Diva onto the field, you could use this to actually get the Diva into the grave so that you could search for something like a Minstrel. So it does come up every now and again. And then to round out to the Link monsters, I am playing one Apollousa and one Boral Sword. Apollousa being fantastic because most of the time you're able to sit on this with 3 negates, which is really awesome. And then you have Boral Sword to close out games. Obviously, if you have access code, it's a better option, but I can't really afford that card at the moment. Boral Sword gets the job done. I did manage to take 2 games with Boral Sword, so while access code would have been a little bit more efficient in terms of the card advantage, Boral Sword still helps to end games. So, yep, gotta love them. All right, and now for the Xyz monsters, I am playing the 1 copy of Bahamut Shark and 2 copies of Totally Awesome. The reason I play 2 is so that if you do manage to have the Swap and Ronin in your hand or 2 swaps in your hand, you can use it to hard make a Toad, and then later on in your combo, just go into a second Toad from your copy of Bahamut Shark. So obviously Bahamut Shark being really good because it can detach usually a Dragoons to trigger the Dragoons, and then special summon a Totally Awesome, and then the Totally Awesome being able to negate pretty much whatever it wants, and be able to float some of your water monsters. So if it does get sent to the graveyard, you could either choose to add itself, add your Halki Fibrax back to the extra deck, add a copy of Diva back to your hand for some follow-up plays. So the Frog Engine and Totally Awesome are just really powerful in addition to the Atlantean Mermail cards, and that's why I'm playing them and representing my boy on the mat in the background. So, yep, 1 Bahamut Shark and 2 Toad work just fine for me. And then the Mermail Abyss Gyos, it doesn't come up as often, but when it does, it can be a blowout. Level 5 or higher monsters cannot attack, but once per turn, during either player's turn, you could detach an Xyz from this card, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls that have less attack than this card. So usually that's going to be a lot of monsters that fall under that category. If you do manage to buff it with a Mistar Boy, that means that most things that are 3,000 attack will not be able to use their effect, and that is really, really good. So yeah, it doesn't come up as often, but Mermail Abyss Gyos is the OG boss monster for the deck, and I still like playing the 1 copy. And then I am playing for the Synchros 1 copy of Ravenous Crocoddragon and Adamancipator Dragite. Crocoddragon can be very, very good because you are able to quick effect discard 2 cards, target a card on the field, and destroy it. So it doesn't matter which one. It doesn't matter if it's a monster, spell, or trap. It doesn't even matter if it is face up or face down. Just being able to have the utility of popping pretty much whatever you want can be really effective. And then we have Dragite, which is a spell and trap negate that you can get into using 1 copy of your Abyss Teus or Megalo and your Fishborg launcher. So that is why I play these. And then I am playing the Formula Synchron and Satellite Warrior combo. So if you do manage to keep up your Halki Fibrax, you could use it on your opponent's turn to go into a Formula Synchron, special summon itself, which will then let you draw a card. And then during your opponent's main phase, you can use this and something like your Dragite to be able to go into the Satellite Warrior, which can be a blowout. So yeah, I like having this combo in the deck. You're not always going to go into it, but in the instances in which you do, it can be a blowout. So guys, that's it for the extra. Now to show off the side deck that I played, I am, of course, playing 3 copies of Nibiru, the Primal Being. If you're playing against combo decks that are not prepared for Nibiru, this can be a blowout. Believe it or not, there are still decks that are not able to establish a negate before its 5th summon, and so people always have to be wary of this card, and that's why I still play it, because it can be a blowout. I really like high impact hand traps, and Nibiru is the best one. I am, of course, also playing 3 copies of Lancia, mostly for the Tri-Brigade matchup, because they love being able to banish in order to special summon their powerful Link monsters from the extra deck. So this is also great against Dinosaur. It's just usually good against really powerful combo decks, and so that's why I play the 3 Lancia as well. And then I'm playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. It's Ash Blossom, it hits most things. If I'm playing against a deck that really values those 1-for-1 trades, then Ash Blossom can be detrimental to that deck, and that's why I do like playing the 3 copies. I'm also playing Dark Ruler No More. I am not playing around against combo decks. If they want to establish a big board, all right, I'm going to Dark Ruler and then establish my own big board. So it does come up every now and again, and that's why I do like the Dark Ruler. Just being able to have something that can't be responded to by monster effects is so good, because there's so many cards in this format where if your opponent is able to establish a board of monster negates, you could just say no to them with Dark Ruler No More and then continue on with your plays. So I still love it. And then, of course, for back row, I'm playing Twin Twisters. This does come up if you're playing against Eldritch or random stuff like Mystic Mine. You could use the Twin Twisters to pop those cards, and then you can go off to the races from there. The reason I prefer this over Cosmic is because it does let you discard a card. So if you are going second, you could use it to discard a water monster from your hand so that you get additional utility to search off of your Aria. So that's why I like the Twin Twisters. It does have additional utility. You could argue that Lightning Storm is more impactful. The thing about Lightning Storm is that it does not give you that discard. So while it can be a blowout, I do like the fact that Twin Twisters gives me the ability to discard, just so that I have additional use off of the Aria. So guys, that's going to be it for the main portion of the video. I'm going to show off the main combo that I was using this weekend with the Diva, and then I'll talk about some side decking tips moving forward. So if you were just here for the profile, thanks for sticking around so far, and now I'm going to hop right into the combos. All right, everyone, welcome to the combo portion of the video. I'm going to show you what one copy of Diva can do, how you can adjust your end board, and how you can take other cards into consideration depending on what you have in your hand. So without further ado, we'll just hop right into it. I'll normal summon the Diva to go ahead and special summon a copy of Neptibus from the deck. Neptibus will trigger, and for cost, will send a Dragoon to the graveyard to add a Dragoon to your hand. From here, the Dragoon in the grave will trigger, which will add a Lapis Dragon to your hand, who will special summon himself to your side of the field. Now, since you have the materials to do so, you will special summon, you will link the Diva and Lapis Dragon to go and special summon a copy of Halqifibrax. Halqifibrax will trigger, special summoning a copy of Fishborg Launcher from the deck to your side of the field. And now, because you control 2 level 1 monsters, you could use them for a link summon into Bujinki Ahashima. Bujinki will trigger, special summoning 2 monsters with the same level, 1 from the grave and 1 from your hand, and then use them for an Exceed summon. So we'll use the level 4 Dragoons from our hand to special summon a level 4 Dragoons from the grave, and then use them to Exceed summon into, you guessed it, Bahamut Shark. You will then use the Bahamut Shark to detach the Dragoons to special summon a copy of Toad from the extra deck. From here, the Dragoons in grave that was just detached will trigger to go ahead and add yourself a copy of Mooling Glacier. Now, you should have 5 water monsters in your grave, in which case you could go ahead and special summon Mooling Glacier from your hand and discard 2 cards at random from your opponent. Now, from here, you will special summon your copy of Fishborg Launcher from the grave, and then what I usually do will use the Halqifibrax, the Bahamut Shark, and the Fishborg Launcher to link into a 3 negate Appaloosa. So guys, this is usually where you are going to be. You're going to have 3 monster negates from Appaloosa, the Omni negate with Toad, and you would have ripped 2 cards from your opponent's hand. So let's back it up just a bit to before we made Appaloosa. So usually your board will look something like this. You can actually use the Mooling Glacier and the Fishboard Launcher. The Fishboard will banish because it was special summoned from the grave. And you could use them to go into a copy of your Ravenous Dragon. And on your opponent's turn, you can use Chrystron Needle Fiber's effect to send itself to special summon a Formula Synchron from your extra deck. And when the Formula Synchron is brought to the field, you will then be able to draw an extra card so that you can use Ravenous Dragon's effect even more efficiently, because it does, by quick effect, discard 2 cards and target a card on the field and destroy it. So let's go ahead and back up again. So that is another great option to go to as well. Usually you will still have your Needle Fiber, your Bahamut Shark, and your Mooling Glacier with the Fishboard Launcher. Now, assuming you did not want to go into Mooling Glacier, say you're going up against a deck that it really won't be too impactful against, but you did have a copy of, for example, an Abyss or an Abyss Megalo. So if you did manage to get an Abyss onto the field, you can then actually use the Abyss in the Fishboard Launcher to link summon into, to synchro summon into a copy of Adamancipator Rising Dragite. So sometimes this can be even more useful, because if you need to negate spells and traps more frequently, then it might be better to go into your Dragite rather than going into the Appaloosa, just because of the fact that, well, you have an extra spell and trap negate. So that is always going to be a great option to go into. I highly recommend it because Dragite is just such a really good card. Technically, you have 2 water monsters on your field. I like to keep the Needle Fiber so that I can go into the Formula Synchron on the next turn, draw an extra card, which can help you to get into some of your other hand traps. Of course, you could also, because they're both water-type monsters, use them to go into a copy of your Miss Starboy, just to be able to buff your monsters a little bit more. A lot of times people, they're able to get into a monster that could just swing over your Totally Awesome, in which case, yeah, that could be a little detrimental. However, having the Miss Starboy to buff all of your water monsters by 500 is amazing, because now your Dragite is at 3,500. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to out that. And of course, you don't necessarily have to go into the Miss Starboy. You can still have your Needle Fiber and your Bahamut Shark on your side of the field. And you could just, of course, use the Needle Fiber for the Formula Synchron play, and the next turn have the Bahamut Shark at your disposal to detach, to go ahead and bring out another Totally Awesome to your side of the field. And of course, it will trigger Dragoons, which can add your Diva to allow you to do the combo all over again. So guys, that is going to be it for the combo. I'm going to go ahead and give you some tips for side decking. Hey everyone, welcome to side decking tips for the Atlantean Mermail strategy. I'm going to be talking over just general side decking tips, my philosophy when I decide to choose certain cards to swap out, and when it will be appropriate to do so. The cards towards the top are cards that I will generally consider swapping out if I am forced to go second, and the cards on the bottom are usually good for going second, but can also be good going first, and I will show you some cards that you can consider swapping out for so that your matchups are a lot easier. So the ones towards the top, the reason that they're not as good going second is because if you're facing up against a control deck, for example, Minstrel isn't as good because most likely they will set their entire hand, in which case they will not have a card for you to banish. Additionally, if you know you're playing up against a combo deck and they might vomit out their hand, then they might not have that card for you to banish. And the same philosophy for Mooling Glacier. It's really useful if you are able to get the 2 discards, which is, again, only really good if you're going first because you can guarantee that there are cards in your opponent's hand. But when you're going second, if they know that you're playing Mermail, they may not want to keep cards in their hand just because they know that there is a potential for them to get sniped. So removing the Mooling Glacier from the equation allows you to put in much more impactful cards. And then the 2 Tenyi Spirit Sithana, they're just extenders. They're really not necessary for the combo, so you could swap them out for much more impactful things as well. The Gamma Seals obviously are still really good for being able to remove problematic threats, but might not be as good if you are forced to go first. So I'll show some cards to swap out for that as well. So first and foremost, if you're playing against combo, most of the time you're going to want to swap into Nibiru. Not all of them are able to establish a negate before the 5th summon, in which case you could just blow them out by going into Nibiru, tributing all of their monsters, and then hopefully that will keep them from being able to go into their crazy end board. Additionally, since we aren't really going to have too much utility from these cards, we can go ahead and swap them out for 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More, because if you are not able to get into the Nibiru, you could simply if the combo player is still able to establish a huge board, then you could just play Dark Ruler No More, say no, and then just go ahead and create your own board and then start to pick off your opponents from there. Unfortunately, you don't get the battle phase, but who cares if you're able to establish your own broken board, and now it levels the playing field. Lastly, I will consider swapping out the Gamma Seal for 3 copies of Lancia if you know that the matchup is going to specifically have stuff that will banish. There are combo decks out there that are just going to use banishing to continue extending their combos, so Lancia can sometimes completely remove that from the equation. And if you're not the biggest fan of Spooky Dogwood, that is perfectly okay. It's still really good against combo decks. However, you are free to swap them out for 3 copies of Ash. Still really impactful at being able to trade, to do a 1-for-1 trade in the event that they're trying to get a search or a special summon off. So now, that is really my mentality for swapping out for combo decks. So if you are forced to go up against a back row player, for example, removed one of those Gamma Seals. Usually I will swap these 3 out for 3 copies of Twin Twisters, obviously for popping those pesky spells and traps in the back row. However, it is also useful because it allows you to discard. Deep Sea Aria really needs that water monster in the grave in order for you to get that search. So Twin Twisters has additional utility there. Now, Gamma Seal can still be really good in a lot of different instances. Even some control decks will like to end on that one boss monster that will still be able to cause some damage. Totally awesome. Eldritch the Golden Lord, Makaba, Dragoons, etc. So Gamma Seal is still really good if you are forced to go up against those control players, simply because you can just remove the one monster that they may be sitting on and then continue your plays from there. I will consider, if I am playing up against Invoked or Dino, or if I'm playing up against a Eldritch player, swapping the Minstrel for 3 copies of Lancia. As I mentioned earlier, being able to keep your opponent from banishing can sometimes skip their turn. This is also really good for the Tri-Brigade matchup because they really need to be able to banish in order to link summon. So 3 copies of Lancia is very effective there. And then because control decks may not special summon as much, you're going to go ahead and swap those out no matter what for 3 copies of Ash Blossom. So if you notice, all right, well, they're not really special summoning, so I'm not going to get too much utility out of the Spooky Dogwood. You can put in the Ash, because no matter what, a lot of these control decks, they do not have the versatility that combo players do to be able to play around Ash Blossom. They really value their 1-for-1 trades, and so Ash Blossom can really stop a critical search, a critical special summon, and that can turn the game in your favor. So guys, that's my mentality for side decking. Hopefully this gave you some insight and maybe gave you some ideas towards how you will be able to side deck for your particular metagame. Remember, these are just tips. They are fast and loose, so if you want to be able to swap out cards for different options. If you're able to afford it, you can choose to go into Lightning Storm, but it is absolutely not necessary. If you want to go for something like Ghost Bell instead of the Ash, that is great as well. This is just a framework for you to use so that if you are interested in playing Mermail in the future, you will have an idea as to how we side going first or second. So guys, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you so much for sticking around if you're still here. And until next time, GG.